Last weekend, in the middle of a crowded wedding and an unexpected reunion with my ex, I experienced a moment that made my heart go still. Not because of the past, but because of the woman holding my hand, my wife, who made me realize she is the most wonderful thing in my life. We were attending a close friend's wedding, the very person who once connected me and my ex. From the moment I saw the guest list, I felt a strange sense of nervousness. Not because I still had feelings or anything unresolved, but simply because it had been 7 years since I last saw her, someone who was once my best friend, my partner through much of my youth, someone I had loved with all the innocence and sincerity of a younger me. I didn't know how the encounter would go. I imagined hundreds of scenarios, from awkward silence to avoiding each other completely. I wasn't afraid of the past coming back, but I feared anything that might make my wife uncomfortable. My wife, who knew everything about that past relationship, had never once been upset, jealous, or distant. She understood me, trusted me, and always gave me a sense of peace, even when the past was brought up. That's why I felt even more pressure. I didn't want to repeat the mistake I made a few years ago when we, then still dating, attended another wedding and unexpectedly ran into her ex. I didn't handle it well. I was cold, jealous, irrational, and I regretted it deeply. She never blamed me, just gently said, "Everyone needs time to learn how to be generous." So this time, when I saw my ex sitting alone at a table, I took a deep breath, turned to my wife, and whispered, "Come with me for a bit." She nodded and held my hand tightly, as if to say, "Do what you need. I'm here." We walked over. My ex looked up, surprised for a second, then we smiled and hugged lightly. I introduced my wife. "This is my wife," and saw warmth in both their eyes. They started talking, naturally, so much so that I stepped back, watching the scene as if from the outside. There was no bitterness, no distance, no lingering pain, just three adults who had been through enough to grow up sitting together, sharing old memories, laughing about the groom, and even taking a photo together. It was in that moment I truly saw it. My wife wasn't just understanding. She was strong, mature, and gracious in a way that filled me with admiration. Not everyone can face their partner's past with a calm smile and unshaken faith. Throughout the night, we didn't sit with my ex again, but occasionally crossed paths. A glance, a nod, a casual comment. Everything was smooth and light, something I had once thought impossible. I kept watching my wife during those moments, laughing with friends, gently linking her arm through mine, introducing me proudly. Not once did she make a sarcastic remark. Not once did she seem withdrawn. It was like my past didn't exist between us. But I knew she saw everything, understood everything, and simply chose kindness. The moment that moved me most was during the group photo with the bride and groom. My ex happened to be standing nearby, and it was my wife who said first, "Let's take one all together, like we used to back in the day." Her voice was light, natural, like there had never been a crack between us. That photo, with all our smiles, was something I never thought possible. A small, simple moment, but to me, it meant everything. That the past was truly closed, in the gentlest way, thanks to the woman I call my wife. On the ride home, I kept looking at her in the passenger seat. She didn't seem to notice anything different, just turned and asked, "Why do you keep staring at me?" I smiled without answering. There weren't enough words for what I felt. I realized how small I was compared to her generosity and grace. I used to think I was the one who had chosen the right partner. But after that night, I realized she was the one who had chosen to love and forgive, a man still learning how to be a good husband. When we got home, it was already late, but I didn't feel tired. Instead, there was this strange feeling like my heart was full of something I couldn't quite define. Happiness, gratitude, clarity. All I knew was, I couldn't take my eyes off the woman who was now brushing her hair, sitting down beside me like every other night, except tonight didn't feel ordinary. I remembered the first time she told me about her ex. It was at a small cafe, her voice calm, not bitter, as she stared into her glass. I, on the other hand, was uncomfortable, then jealous, then silent. I'd often been irrational about her past, and when we once ran into her ex at another wedding, I had acted poorly. That memory came back as I reached out from under the blanket and gently touched her shoulder. She turned to me and smiled, that familiar, warm smile that made all apologies feel unnecessary. But I still whispered, "Thank you for today." She frowned playfully. "For the nice photo." I shook my head. "No, for making everything feel okay." You didn't flinch, didn't judge. That means more than you know. She didn't respond immediately. Then she said quietly, "I get it. Facing the past isn't scary, as long as the person beside you knows how to hold your hand." Her words flowed through me like water, washing away everything I used to fear. I realized a strong marriage ain't one without a past. It's one where kindness helps you walk through it together. That night, I held her tightly as she drifted into sleep. Maybe she doesn't know, but it was her with her patience and love who taught me something I'll carry for life. The ideal partner in someone who makes you forget the past, but someone who makes you no longer fear it. In the days that followed, that feeling stayed with me. It wasn't fireworks, not butterflies, but something deeper. I started loving her more, not just as a wife, but as a person who had quietly taught me how to be better. I began noticing the little things: her sleepy eyes in the morning, the way she always folds the laundry with care, how she hums while watering her plants, the things I used to take for granted. And slowly, I began doing small things: folding her towel, taking out the trash without being asked, making her tea when she looked tired. Not because I felt guilty, but because I truly wanted to be a better husband, one who loves not just in words, but in the everyday acts that build a life together. She never brought up that wedding again, never mentioned the flowers or chocolate. She simply continued being her, cooking, working, tending to her balcony garden, and still planting a soft kiss on my forehead each morning. And somehow, that quiet normalcy made me love her even more. Looking back, I remember how tense I felt walking her up to my ex that day. I never imagined that moment would become a turning point. It gave me a new lens through which to see my wife, not just as someone I loved, but as someone I deeply respected. If someone asked me what makes a man fall back in love with his wife after years, I wouldn't say beauty or success. I'd say it's the moment she inspires him to become better, not because she demands it, but because he wants to, out of love. Time passed. Life returned to normal: work, dinners, little arguments over chores or what movie to watch. But something in me had changed. I no longer saw love as something automatic. I began to realize love isn't kept alive by loyalty alone, but by daily gratitude and intentional effort. I often think back to when I was younger, how I thought love was enough, that sincerity alone would bring happiness. But now I know, some people enter your life not to complete you, but to illuminate the parts of you still growing. My wife is that kind of person. That moment when I walked her toward my ex wasn't just a chance encounter. It was a quiet test of our love, and her response, calm, kind, unshaken, forced me to look at myself in ways I hadn't before. She once told me, "Marriage ain't about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing someone who makes you want to try." Every day, back then, I smiled, not fully understanding. But now I do. When you've found the right person, you don't try to be better out of pressure. You do it because you can't imagine hurting someone who's given you so much peace. I write this on a quiet evening, as she sleeps beside me, hair spilling across the pillow, hand loosely holding the edge of the blanket like a child. I put my phone down and just watch her for a moment. Tomorrow, she wake up, make coffee for us both, scroll through the news, and start another ordinary day. But for me, every day beside her is a blessing. I can't promise to be a perfect husband, but I know I'll never stop trying because she deserves that. Because as long as she's holding my hand, I'll walk through every regret, every imperfection, and every scar of the past. And if someone asks me what the most wonderful thing in my life is, I'd say without hesitation, it's my wife. The woman who taught me what it truly means to love with heart, with grace, and with a silence stronger than any words.